Baseball's back. We finally got a deal. The lockout's over. It's episode 192 of The Next Best Bet. I'm Jake Higgins with Brett Levy, as always. And Brett, we got the news shortly before recording on a Thursday instead of our normal Wednesday recording. We know the season's going to be starting, and they even hinted at a Steve Cohen tax. The Mets being taken seriously all of a sudden. We'll get into it in a little bit. But real quick look at how we did last episode. Brett, there's only one win on the board, and it was the Pistons +8 that won outright for me. But, of course, it was not my pick of the pod, so I'm still 0-7 on that to start this year. You are cooling down a little bit, but you're still doing much better than I am.
Yeah, Higgins is a tough stretch, but this is what I always preach on the podcast, is you go through these highs and lows. It's not all rainbows and unicorns or whatever the saying is, Higgins. there's valleys too, right? Mountains and valleys, and look, had a bad week. We hope, or whatever episode, we hope to bounce back, and we got a lot of basketball coming up on a Friday. All these conference tournament games have been fun. Higgins, I was freaking out at the office during the Syracuse-Duke game
they had
this
a chance.
week. It was an exciting game. Syracuse got a little cold there at the end, but very fun competitive game. We've seen some upsets. St. John's beats Villanova. We've seen some buzzer beaters winning conference tournaments with Chattanooga, Higgins. So lots of fun during the conference tournament action.
And our pick of the pod and Levy Lock, they both lost by just 2 points. I had Gonzaga -12. They won outright, but they won by 10 points. You had St. Mary's -5. They won by 3 points. So those two faced off in the WCC championship game with Gonzaga winning. Brett, it hints at what our beginner's boulevard is. Gonzaga clinched the WCC automatic bid to March Madness, and if somehow you live under a rock and you might not know what this term is, it's the NCAA Division I college basketball tournament. But Brett, do you know where this actually originated?
No. Why don't you fill me in, Higgins?
It's actually in reference to a high school state championship, the 1939 Illinois State Championship, to be precise. Someone referenced it as March Madness. The term stuck, and it has snowballed all the way today to being what we know it as now.
Wow, there you go. The 1939 Illinois High School basketball tournament. Wow, who would have thought?
Well, we have that right around the corner, and last year, you and I, we held our own bracket pool. Lots of people do it. Their offices do it, things like that. We're going to host one again. Our buddy from college won it last year. We're going to see who gets it this year. Gonzaga, another one of those favorites to be a heavy favorite by a lot of people once again.
Yeah, should be really good, Higgins. I think a lot of non-1 seeds will have an opportunity this year. I think there's a lot of parity across the game. Teams have, some teams that we think are really good have struggled on the road, so we'll see how they fare in neutral sites. And there's always some of the adjusting to the larger arenas as well, Higgins. So shooting percentages drop a little bit, and you get some close action, and some Cinderellas can make some noise.
We'll be tweeting out our bracket pool periodically over the next week. Round of 68 games start Tuesday. 64 starts on Thursday, so you have some time. Selection Sunday is when the bracket will officially be out, but we'll be posting our link on Twitter periodically if you want to sign up for it. That's at NBBpod on Twitter. Brett, moving into some quick news before we actually do some picks, just because some big things happened between last episode and now. I mean, the MLB lockout is over, and maybe we can cover one of these real quickly first. That plays a damper on the NFL offseason, which has so far been able to take all of the sports news and been able to just run with all of the sports section pages, basically. but apparently we're going to be getting a flurry of MLB signings coming real quick and over the next month or so before games start on April 7th. And, it's going to be interesting, but I don't think the NFL's done. We saw Russell Wilson going to Denver. We saw Carson Wentz going to the Washington Commanders, and Khalil Mack going back to the AFC West to the Chargers. And, Brett, that AFC West is stacked.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Higgins. I guess I think this about Khalil Mack. I think he's, an impactful player when he's healthy, but I don't think I've seen him very healthy the last few seasons. So a little bit of a risk here for the Chargers.
Which is why the Chargers got him for what they did, which was, a second and a fifth or a sixth?
Yeah.
Much different than what the Bears had to pay the Raiders to get him.
Very true, Higgins. It was a much, much lower asking price, but he's also, now on the wrong side of 30, and there's a few other reasons the price dropped, but I think pairing him up with guys like Derwin James and Bosa, it's
Takes
another weapon. Yeah, it's another weapon for sure.
And much better managed team than the Chicago Bears, who have just recently turned over from Matt Nagy. They're going a new way. Parting ways with one of their defensive linemen kind of makes sense. I don't think we're done seeing some quarterback moves personally, Brett. I think there's going to be some more news before the NFL draft in terms of quarterbacks moving places potentially. But like I said, the MLB lockout's over. And Brett, what does this really mean for you? Games still aren't for a month.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for baseball, Higgins. The Mets obviously had a big offseason, bringing in Marte, bringing in Max Scherzer, Higgins. We're very excited about the 1-2 punch of Scherzer and DeGrom over in these parts. So, I'm excited for baseball this year. Do I think the lockout is going to affect the fans? I think some people might be a little turned off by baseball right now. But, by the time it's June, July, and we're in the thick of it and nothing's really left on TV, the NBA Finals are over, the Stanley Cup Finals over, it's pretty much just baseball and golf's only played on the weekends, Higgins. So, I think people will come around to baseball again. I think it'll be okay. Look, I certainly think Little League was still going on, probably across the country. So, kids were still playing baseball, right? There's still the opportunity to fall in love with the game. So, I'm not really worried about it from that perspective. And I'm kind of just looking at it, optimistically from a Mets perspective. But, obviously, this does do a little bit of damage to quote-unquote growing the game, bringing in new fans, bringing in excitement. Having a lockout is obviously going to do some sort of negative damage there, but I don't think it'll be very noticeable throughout the season, Higgins.
I think they'll be able to get over it quickly. I think the fact they're playing 162 games is going to really help memory in a few years looking back at this lockout. They're going to look back at it and it's going to look at, no, they got it done in time. They still played 162 games, but we are going to feel this in November, Brett. The season's starting a week late. That's pushing everything back a week. We already see baseball games with snow when it comes to postseason. They're expanding the playoffs now a little bit. I'm very interested to see how some of those cold weather games are going to go at the end of this baseball season. But most importantly, they get to play a full 162 games. And I started to see on social media once they started to cancel games, some concern for some of these younger players that they've had to already play a shortened COVID season, which was out of their control, absolutely. But then potentially playing under the weird circumstances they did last year, and then potentially a shortened circumstance this year would really hinder where they could be long-term in a record book or even be able to run with their while in their prime in these seasons. And so I'm glad they're playing a full 162, but we are going to see at the end of this year, there's going to be some cold baseball and some very interesting games with some snow.
Maybe. you get that in April too. So
Yeah.
I'm not. That's not really a
Colorado's going to
concern for
Colorado.
me. Yeah,
Boston's going to Boston.
Detroit's cold. Cleveland can be cold. Minnesota is going to be
Yeah,
cold.
absolutely.
Seattle's mostly rain, but obviously, they have a roof, so good for them. But
Yeah,
I mean, they're just. Who knows? It could snow in the Bronx in April. It's certainly a
it definitely can.
possibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. Just most importantly, we're going to start seeing a flurry of free agency signings. I mean, Freddie Freeman's still available. There's a plethora of other quality signings that are still available. And Brett, you mentioned being an excited Mets fan. You got Steve Cohen, and kind of a little rebuke from the old leadership in the MLB, adding this fourth tier to the luxury tax, which is already kind of being called the Stephen Cohen tax. Do you think that means good news for your Mets that maybe they're not done signing this year? You think you got another signing in you in March?
Yeah, I mean, I like when the other owners are scared of your owner, Higgins. That's
I
a
would agree.
good. That is a good place to be. That you feel pretty confident about your baseball team when all the other owners are like, "Hey, I don't know about this guy."
Yeah, so I'll be interested to see if the Mets do make another move. They've already absolutely shook things up. Their pitching rotation's going to be nasty this year. Can they get the runs? Hopefully. Brett, real quick before we move out of this, current internet trends, just because they're everywhere. Are there more wheels or doors in the world?
Are people really asking about this? This is a big
Yes,
internet
it's
trend?
actually quite a great. It's actually quite the debate because if you think about it, it's hard to actually quantify. Are cabinets doors? Technically, Lego wheels. I mean, it's quite the conversation, and I'm wondering where this betting line would be at if we had doors versus wheels.
I would guess wheels would be my guess. Wheels.
Wheels would have the favorite, maybe. I'm kind of on that side too.
I mean, I don't know. I'm glad I do not spend my time thinking about this very much.
All right, then I'll move on to the other internet trend real quick. Would you rather $1 million guaranteed or flip a coin for $1 billion? And from a bettor's perspective, think of it.
No, I'll take the mill.
Take the guaranteed?
I'll just take the mill. I'm good.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I might flip that coin. I'm terrible at coin flips though, so I'm undecided right now. I'm siding closer with you.
I'll
on that
say
mill.
this: the way this is worded, Higgins, I would flip a coin and then take the $1 billion because I don't have to guess anything. Like I just flip a coin. Sure, I can do that.
The technicality.
Yeah. So the way this is worded, I would flip the coin, but I know what you're really asking. So in the spirit of the question, I would take the $1 million.
All right. Fair enough. Let's get into our picks now. Move into the NBA. Plenty of basketball left to talk about, Brett. And the one win that I had, and either of us had last episode, was the Pistons +8. And they have been 8-1-1 against the spread in their past 10 games. So they've won 8, lost 1, and they've pushed 1. They are +14 in Pennsylvania against the Celtics in Boston. I'm taking the Pistons.
Yeah, I like the Pistons side here, Higgins. They're playing really good basketball. Cade Cunningham playing really, really well as of late. But just to play devil's advocate and kind of see what someone may like on the other side. Jason Tatum playing out of his mind, Higgins. And look, I'm feeling really smart about saying, he has top 5 potential in the preseason and all that. Because, look, he's playing unbelievable right now, carrying the Celtics team. Celtics team's very hot. Obviously, huge Sixers-Nets game going on Thursday night, Higgins.
Massive.
But people are talking about the Celtics with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Marcus Smart playing well. Derek White been really good since the trade for him. So definitely a team to watch. But I'm with you. I would be on the Detroit side. And in fact, the only reason I'm not betting this game on Friday, Higgins, is because you're already on it. And like, if I hop on it, the Celtics are actually going to win by 45.
Well, I appreciate that. Respecting the pillars, you and I stay off the same bets as much as possible.
There we go. But I'm going to be on the Knicks-Grizzlies game, Higgins, because what if I told you the New York Knickerbockers are on a little 3-game winning streak here, Higgins?
Ooh.
Yeah, a little 3-game win streak. So they're playing really good basketball right now. And look, not to take anything away from Memphis, but nearly 5 possessions is a lot of possessions in a basketball game. A lot of things need to break right and go your way. So give me the 9.5 points with the Knicks, Higgins, on a 3-game win streak. Go New York, go New York, go. Go New York, go New York, go.
And hey, you know, this line might be, or it probably is, inflated a little bit because Memphis is the best team in the NBA against the spread right now. They're 44-23, so respect Ja, I think is what the book's saying.
Yeah, well, you know, certainly if someone came up to me and said, hey, I can take the Knicks on the money line here, I'd say, you might want to go take a different dog tonight. But look, Higgins, you know, you've heard me say this before, like when I've seen teams at 12, 13 points, right? I just think that number is too big. You know, you took Detroit at 14 points. That number is too big for me for a regular season game. 9.5 for a team on a 3-game winning streak, playing well, believing in themselves. I mean, whether we believe it or not, they believe they're fighting for a playoff spot, right? So, you know, the Knicks are going to be coming out playing competitive basketball. You know, Tibbs is playing his guys. He's not resting anyone. So, I think the 9.5's a good number. You know, if it got down to somehow move 2 points, right, I probably wouldn't take it at 7.5 or anything like that. But basically a 5-possession game right now, Higgins, is what I'm looking at.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I understand and respect that pick, I'd say.
Thank you.
Let's move on to college basketball, though, Brett, because like our Beginners Boulevard is March Madness. We're only in the conference tournaments right now, but Thursday was madness. At least some of the day games to start off. The teams that went into halftime with the lead started off 1-5 on the day, Brett.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy, Higgins. You know, we mentioned Syracuse a little earlier. Well,
they had the lead to start at the half, and
absolutely.
then they lost to Duke.
But then there was the Michigan game, Higgins, where Indiana had a huge comeback and takes care of Michigan. I believe TCU came all the way back against Texas. Texas was out to an early big lead. So, yeah, lots of games with comebacks. That Florida-Texas A&M game going to multiple overtimes, Higgins. So, lots and lots of good basketball, fun basketball going on. And we've got a few picks. I'll start off in the SEC, Higgins. Speaking of Texas A&M, coming off a multiple overtime game, taking on Auburn. Auburn, really good team this year. Jabari Smith, one of the best players in the country, Higgins. But A&M, tough, gritty team full of transfers. This is why they all transferred to Texas A&M, to try and make the tournament, to play more, right? Well, they kind of underachieved a little bit this year, weren't as good as maybe they were hoping. But now they've already upset one team in the tournament. They got to be feeling good about themselves. And Auburn, one of those teams that really plays well at home, struggles on the road. We'll see how they do in a neutral site game here against an opponent that's already won a game, Higgins.
Yeah, Texas A&M blew the doors off of Florida. I mean, at least early they were running them out the gym. I didn't see what the final score was, saw they did get the win against Florida. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're riding high coming in the next day to face off against Auburn, a team that already has. I mean, if they don't win the SEC championship, Auburn's going to get an at-large bid. So those kids might not be playing as hard, although Bruce Pearl's probably got them playing pretty hard.
I think Bruce Pearl has him working.
Absolutely. Brett, I have one pick, but it's later on in the night. So why don't you go ahead with another one of yours?
All right, Higgins. Well, Arkansas and LSU also in the SEC. Squaring off, I just think Arkansas is the better team here, Higgins. Probably would side with Musselman as well for better coach. So, give me Arkansas minus 1.5. I need them to win by a bucket.
All right. And actually, Brett, you know what? I'm going to make a second pick here real quick. I've been sitting on the fence with it. Iowa -7. They played their hearts out today, scored 112 points, a school record. I think they set another school record for threes made. And now they have to play Rutgers, a team that's not above 500 against the spread. Iowa's only 7-point favorites in this one. I think they're going to win by more than that here.
Okay, fair enough, Higgins. I can give out another game since you gave us a little surprise pick there. And I'm going to go St. Louis, St. Bonaventure in the A10. Look, Higgins, I respect the Bonnies. I think they're a pretty solid team. They battled some injuries throughout the year. They were not healthy when they faced UConn in a neutral site game. But, you know, a lot of people preseason thought that was a winnable game for them. So this team is talented. And look, St. Louis, obviously well coached. Travis Ford, they've brought in good talent while he's been there as well. So St. Louis, no slouch, Higgins. But I'm getting the Bonaventure slight dogs here, plus 108 on the money line. I definitely think this team can win the A10 tournament. So getting them plus money here feels like a good risk to take. It's not my lock or anything, but I definitely like this pick. I think the Bonnies get it done here.
All right, some slight underdog action with the Bonnies. I have some slight underdog action here as well, Brett. Miami versus Duke. The over-under right now, it's set at 151 in Pennsylvania, and as of Thursday night, the over has plus 102 juice. So I'm going to be taking that. I'm going to be taking that slight underdog value before it gets bumped down. And you know what, Brett? I'm going to just put a unit on it because Duke's been red hot in terms of Duke's been red hot with their offense. They put up 90 points repeatedly. I think they're going to come out fired up, especially after Coach K lit a fire under their butt when they lost to UNC at Cameron.
Yeah, well, I not so sure if I trust Duke or not. I'm not sure what the problem with Syracuse was today, but they obviously, I think they would have pushed the 9. They might have ended up winning by a final of 9. But the game was much closer than that, Higgins. Like, you did not think you were getting 9 points there. You didn't think you were getting anywhere close to that Duke minus 15 number that was hanging out there pregame. So the fact that it was 9 was kind of a miracle that Syracuse got so cold at the end, started fouling. Duke made their free throws, which is what you need to do to cover a spread at this number. And also hit that over, Higgins. So we're rooting for free throws. Yeah, you don't need the spread.
I'm on the over-under, and Duke's only hit 2 unders in the past 10 games. Miami's only hit 3 unders in the past 10 games. So both these teams' offenses have been playing above average. The defenses have just played below average, which honestly just helps an over.
You. Yeah, which helps you. Yeah, it does not hurt you at all. So why not take the over? Good for you, Higgins. Go have some fun at that Miami and Duke game. And then lastly, I'm going to Big 12 country. Kansas takes on TCU. Higgins, this tournament's played in Kansas City. It's about 45 minutes from Lawrence, Kansas here. So Kansas -8 just feels like a really good number. It's not technically home cooking, but it'll feel like home cooking, I have a feeling.
Okay, yeah, I'm staying with my 2 college basketball picks because remember, we still have all of March Madness to go, so you got to save some of the bankroll for some of those heavy games. I mean, next Thursday, next Friday, those are some big basketball days. There's, 16 games each day?
Yeah, yeah, I guess, yeah, you are dead on right there. There is a lot of college basketball going on coming up in the next week. So, makes some sense to save some bankroll, Higgins. We've got the Players' Championship going on this weekend.
Big
Tough
purse.
start.
Did you see how big that purse is this year? It's, I think, the largest purse of a golf tournament ever.
Yeah, I think it hit 20 mil. So pretty good payday there. But yeah, tough start with all the lightning delays on round 1. So we'll have to keep our eye on that as well.
Absolutely. And surprisingly, as of Thursday night when we recorded this, no NHL lines that were out. So, it was a heavy NHL night on Thursday, lots of games. So maybe there's just a light slate on Friday and they're going to put out the lines, wait till morning. But Brett, before we get out of here, Levy Lock, pick the pod. We both lost. You tried to be nice and give me the honors. To be honest, how dare you? Take them right back.
Well, Higgins, I mentioned it briefly, and, I don't really need to get into much of the reasoning other than the fact that I just think Arkansas is better than LSU. I think they're probably the better coach team, the more talented team, so I like Arkansas -1.5 here, Higgins. Now, Arkansas has done a little of the play up to your competition, play down to your competition thing. Alabama's done that in the SEC as well. But, I think LSU's one of those teams people still kind of get up for. They're viewed as a top-tier SEC team, not one of the bottom-tier SEC teams. So I don't really think that narrative comes into it here, and it's just, it'll be a solid game. I think it, comes down to a few possessions at the end, but I think Arkansas probably has the lead beginning to end in this one.
Yeah, my pick of the pod's going to be Pistons +14, like we talked about during the NBA section. That line, the Knicks line at +9.5, they just both feel really large for a regular season NBA game. Plus the Pistons, they haven't lost against the spread in 9 games. Now there is a push smack dab in the middle there. They've won 4, pushed, and then they won 4 again. But they're on a little bit of a hot streak at the books, and I'm going to ride with them again. They're the only team that got me a win last episode. Let's see if they pull through a second time.
I'm rooting for you and the Pistons, Higgins.
All right, make sure to check out our social media. We're going to be posting our bracket pool on our Twitter, on our Instagram. That's at NBBpod on Twitter, at Next Best Bet on Instagram, and the Next Best Bet Facebook page and YouTube channel. This has been episode 192 of The Next Best Bet. For Brett, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys again soon.